still has, what happens if,
Okay.
This council meeting is called to order in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of March 7th, 2022 was included in the list of meetings published in the Courier News and Star Ledger. Notice of this meeting was also placed on the bulletin board at Borough Hall. In addition, a copy of this notice is available to the public, and a copy of the statement shall be included in the minutes of this meeting. Sorry about that. Sounded pretty good.
The only thing better than one Kevin Sloop is two.
Roll call. Mayor Nana Sullivan.
Here.
Council members. Granville Brady.
Here.
Tom Mitchell.
Here.
Gina Stravic.
Here.
Roger Vroom.
Here.
Fred Weed.
Here.
Randy Pitts.
Here.
Please join me in the flag salute and remain standing. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start tonight, I'd like to offer a moment of silence for our community member, Mr. Ron Winkles. Ron is a 1967 graduate of Somerville High School. He was active in recreation and at Somerville High School, coaching softball for many years. Interesting individual. His hobby was pigeons. Became an expert in raising and handling pigeons. Neighbor of mine, our kids went to school together. Just a typical Somervillian who contributed in many ways to the betterment of our community. A moment of silence for Mr. Ron Winkles, please. Thank you. Now, on a more global note, we've all been riveted to the TV over the tragic situation going on in Europe right now, and for many of us, we all came here in different paths. Our families came, from different environments, different situations, whether it was natural disasters, economic disasters, wars. We all started somewhere else and then have wound up on the shores of this great country. Just like to offer a general thought to the everyday people of Eastern Europe, whose plight is often overlooked. They're not military, they're not leaders, they're just people trying to live a life, and I wanted to offer from our collective community here a thought across the ocean to our friends in Eastern Europe. Thank you. And I'd just like to add, if you are inclined, if your means allow, there are many organizations, churches, different civic and philanthropic groups that are taking up collections. Again, if your means allow and you're inclined, there's no lack of credible organizations out there that you can contribute to. And I wish the world well at this point. And one set of minutes from February 22nd. I need a motion.
So move. Second.
Council members Granville Brady.
Yes.
Tom Mitchell.
Yeah.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Abstain.
Fred Weed.
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
We have several departmental reports and notices. Have several proclamations tonight. American Red Cross. Kevin, if you would make sure that goes to the appropriate people. Red Cross, they started right around the time of the Civil War. My dad spoke, about the efforts they had in World War II. They look forward to those packages. Far From Home was a piece of America that came overseas to them. They're there when they're needed, and it's my honor to recognize them this month. Women's History Month. It's only 100 years ago that women received the right to vote. And even going way before then, women have contributed to the betterment of our community, our state, our country, and the world. And every day should be Women's History Day. But again, this month is designated as Women's History Month, and I'm honored to have that proclamation. Kevin, would you make sure that's posted outside the Borough Hall? And then the third proclamation I have is from Mr. Patrick Callahan. head of state police. He is being honored this year as the Grand Marshal of our St. Patrick's Day Parade. There's a reception for him this coming Friday night. I will present the proclamation from our borough to him, and I'll have a little bit more to say about the parade later on. We'll go into committee reports. I'll start to my far left, Councilman Mitchell.
Okay, we could pass this down. The Historic Advisory Committee is having memorial marker signs honoring the police officers killed in the line of duty. They will be installed near the sites of the shootings. The illustrations that I've passed around are approximate. Color will be darker, comma placement corrected, and if possible, the shield emblems will be larger. The sewer report for fourth quarter of last year is in. Once again, we used less than the assured minimum. Pat Mannion is stepping down as leader of the Community Emergency Response Team, or CERT. He will be replaced by Laura Camisa. Pat deserves our gratitude for 15 years at CERT. And the Somerset County Planning Board will be holding a virtual meeting March 30th at 4:45 p.m. to discuss their proposed preservation plan. That includes historic as well as farmland and other preservation. The draft copy of the plan and the instructions for participating in the meeting are available at soconj.gov/preservation. And that's all I have.
Councilman Beverages.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last Thursday, was it last Thursday? Yes. Yeah, wow, time flies. No, was it? It was Monday. Oh, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I'm having a minute here. So we had the ad hoc, first meeting of the ad hoc flood advisory committee. Tremendous amount of knowledge that is on that panel currently. Obviously all residents of this borough, and brought a lot to the table. At this time, we made it our mission to complete what we were originally set up to do, which is to look at the 4 zoning resolutions that are currently on, the ordinances that are on. That got tabled at the end of last year, so we're going to be looking at those. What the committee asked for was some more information about current occupancy and things along those lines so that we can make an informed decision. But again, it was truly a pleasure to sit with all of those folks and get a sense of their dedication to Somerville and where we're headed. Following our look at those resolutions and the ordinances and the recommendations that we'll make to council, we're also going to continue our progress towards looking at the whole of town and seeing what we can do to help mitigate some of the larger issues that are impacting us from other sources throughout the borough that we can certainly focus on and see how we can maybe make some headway, so that way, even though we're discussing garden apartments, there were a lot of other areas in town that flooded that have never flooded before. So we want to make sure that whatever we can do to look into that and see how we can make it better, that we do that. So right now, as I said before, ad hoc committee, who's meeting this Thursday in this room, they will be discussing, again, the garden apartment rezoning, and then once that's done, we'll have an idea of when we're going to hand over the resolutions to council, or the ordinances, to council to vote on. And then, like I said, from there, we're going to be taking it to the rest of the borough to look at what we can do to help our neighbors. So it was a great meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for showing up. We appreciate your support.
And you have that meeting posted on the website, Kevin? So, for the public? Okay. All right, Councilman Brady, to my far right.
Yes, as spring approaches, you're going to begin to see more road construction. Plans to complete the curbs on Fairmount and Grant are underway, and that will complete the work that was already subsidized when those streets were repaved by the utility company. The 3 sister streets, Lee, Lori, and Lisa, are scheduled for repaving, as well as Reimer. Orchard and Riviera and Brookside are also going to be done. We have an agreement whereby whereby some streets that we will mill the actual street will be then repaid by the county, and that will result in a savings to us. Some of the streets were torn up by the utility company when they replaced the water lines, and they will not leave them with block-long trenches, and we will get them repaved. We have an ongoing repair and repaving policy, but it doesn't mean that we're going to create speedways, so please drive carefully. We have a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit that we will enforce. Tonight, we're introducing an ordinance to lock the interest rates for the lease purchase of the new emergency services facility on Gaston Avenue. You may recall we lost several months of preparation last year, and that delayed approval of the lease agreement. Since FD Stonewater would finance the construction and ownership for us, we now need to lock in the interest rates for them to secure financing. Because of that delay and the unprecedented inflation we've seen this year, we have to act quickly to avoid any further escalation in rates. And that's my report.
Thank you. Councilman Lee.
Yeah, just real quick, I don't have a lot to report on finance tonight because we're gonna have a whole introduction of our budget at the next meeting, I believe. So, you know, we'll talk more about finance and budget stuff at that meeting. And I just want to say, last Friday, I mentioned at the last meeting, last Friday I attended Somerville Middle School's Challenge Day. And what Challenge Day is, it's an outside group, and they do this all throughout the country, and I believe globally as well. And what happens is you go there, it's a safe space for the middle schoolers, and it was 8th graders this time. And they come and we're put into, you know, one adult for about 5 or 6 kids. And it's a safe space to talk about issues they may be having or the perils of growing up or, you know, and, you know, sitting there, and it's a very emotionally charged day. Guarantee you 3/4 of the room were in tears at some point. And it's really good to know, because I did not have that when I went to Somerville Middle School. It's really good to know that, I'll speak more about this in one of our resolutions, but it's really good to, you know, not stigmatize people who have any type of anxiety or mental disorders or dealing with anything, you know, a divorced parent, you know, trouble in school, thoughts of, you know, thoughts of lacking of self-worth. And, you know, this is all something that everyone has gone through at some point, but it was really good toward the end. The kids were so thankful that we did this. So, you know, it's next year when they do it, you know, we're always looking for volunteers. So it's a very worthwhile program, and that's part of the Youth Services and Municipal Alliance Commission. So we're always looking for volunteers for events, and as the pandemic hopefully slowly ends, we will be having some more events, and I'll keep everyone posted on that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Middle school is a difficult time. It's a long time ago, but I remember it was not easy, and it's certainly probably even more difficult in today's environment. That's what's wrong.
Well, I haven't sat on any recent meetings, but I can tell you that the Environmental Commission will be meeting tomorrow night, and they have all their spring events in discussion, including the annual Earth Day. So stay tuned.
Thank you. Mr. President.
Thank you. I have a few, and I'll try to go through them as quick as possible. Our Somerville staff had its safety meeting on March 2nd, which included representatives from the JIF, Risk Management Agency, excuse me, Brown and Brown and safety officers supplied from the JIF, with the borough's management staff and emergency responders, which included police, EMS, DPW, recreation, and fire officials, to go over insurance, injuries, training, first responder coverage, and third-party claims. And also a discussion on personal vehicles responding to an emergency. The JIF is offering an extensive amount of training programs for DPW and our first responders. Don't forget, beginning May 4th, New Jersey's plastic bag ban goes into effect. Grocery stores, food service businesses, and other retail stores are prohibited from providing or selling single-use plastic carryout bags. Please prepare to use reusable carryout bags at all of our local shops. Last but not least, the Somerset County Office on Aging and Disability Services is conducting a survey to identify the most necessary programs and services for people 60 and over, which would include me. Some of you may be amazed. It's a brief survey to help ensure the right resources are being provided to our seniors. Please contact the Somerset County Office on Aging and Disability Services at 908-704-6346 for more information. And that's it.
Thank you. And I also live in that 60-plus bracket, as I believe is Mr. Perry.
I'm a little older than that.
It's just a number, just a number. A couple of quick remarks from myself. We've been trying to work with Somerset County to get a shot clinic for our youth, and I'm pleased to announce, and Kevin, I'll leave it to you for the details, but we've actually, we have 2 shot clinics scheduled, so Kevin, if you would give me the details.
Sure, it's March 28th, April 11th, it's 2 days. It'll be it'll be held at Lincoln Hose from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. It's right across the street from the health department in Somerset County. And we're working with the schools to certainly get the word out and get them involved. We expect within the next 2 days to work out all the finer details. But those are the dates and the times.
That'll be on our website.
Correct.
Good, and I want to thank you, Kevin, because it's been, it's been a while. We're trying to, even though the pandemic's, going away, and the masking is being reduced, there still were cases. The virus is still with us, and it's not going to go away. It'll still be there, so we can get our kids protected and gives parents an option. So thank you for getting that going. Just make sure the word gets out there. Chatting with Kevin the last couple of days about a tentative reopening for Borough Hall. Just some logistics to work out, and we'll have a formal announcement as to when it will be back open unrestricted. We still are encouraging people to use the walk-up windows, and if you need an appointment inside to call and set up an appointment. Hope to have an announcement about the reopening to normal operations by our next meeting. St. Patrick's Day, as I mentioned, the parade is scheduled for Sunday. As of this morning, it's on. The only wild card now is the weather, and that's my job to ensure good weather that day, and I'm going to do my best. A lot of pent-up energy and excitement, because this will be the first one in 3 years. And we're expecting a good crowd. The parade committee has been working very hard on this, and I've used this analogy before in terms of events like this being a pyramid. People come and they only see the event, they don't see the planning, the hours, the many moving parts, the many organizations that pull together to make the event safe and successful. So I encourage you all to come out. It kicks off 1:30 on Sunday afternoon, and I understand there's if not a record number of participants, it's going to be close to an all-time high. So I would invite you there. Last thing, we talked a little bit about speeding before. Kevin, about a year or two ago, I had asked you to contact Somerset County about having them study a 25 mile per hour speed restriction on all county roads, which would include East Main Street and West Somerset Street. And the response we got back, I think, was to the effect that since the pandemic was upon us, driving patterns, hours, working conditions were somewhat different. And any study that would have been done would have not been accurate. I think it's time to revisit that. East Main Street is, there are a lot of offices there. There are a couple of crossings where kids cross, to and from school. The medical center there, and section of road from all the way really from Pindern Avenue to Gaston could use a study. So let's remind the county that we want them to look at that. I think 25 should be the standard everywhere in town, regardless of who owns the road. So if you would shoot their, their business office a note just to revisit that. They'll probably have to put counters and stuff out to get an asset, but living right there, and Grant, you use that road a lot too. No one travels 25 on that section, and it's, I think just having, you're in Somerville, drive 25, that kind of sign should cover every single road. So let's reach out, to them, to remind them that they owe us, a study of all the county roads, especially that one, and then Somerset Street on the other side of Borough Hall as well. And that's all I have.
Does that include Union Avenue?
That's state. That's 20, that's state highway. 28's got about 4 different speed limits. We've also petitioned the state to go 25 all the way from Adamsville Road to Cornell Boulevard. And we've gotten it as far as Mechanic Street, but the eastern half is still. So let's work with the county, and then we'll get DOT involved. One battle at a time. All right, we have several discussion items, and I'm pleased to introduce Ms. Bridget Lasardi. Bridget, did I pronounce your name correctly? Yeah. Bridget is a member of, and she'll introduce herself. She has a Gold Award project that she would like to propose to us. So come on up to the microphone, introduce yourself, name and address for the record, and give us a summary of what you would like to do and what you need from us.
Okay, thank you. My name is Bridget Lacerda, and you said address?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're wearing a uniform, so that'll suffice.
That's true. So first of all, I wanted to just thank you all for giving me this opportunity to present today and talk about my project, and giving other scouts this opportunity as well, because it truly makes a difference in the lives of adolescents in Somerville, because it makes us feel like our voices are being heard by you guys, so thank you for that.
Welcome.
And does anyone need a copy of what I'm going to say, like the paper?
Oh, just present it, and then we can get copies
Okay.
submitted to people. So just give us a summary of what you'd like to do and what we can do to help.
Okay. So my name is Bridget Lacerda, as you know, and I'm an ambassador Girl Scout here in Somerville and a junior at Somerville High School. And the name of my Gold Award project is So Sustainably. So my project is aimed to slow down fast fashion and teach about sustainability and protecting our environment. So what my project is going to do and provide for the people of Somerville is sewing workshops and to teach them about reusing and repurposing materials. So what is fast fashion? Fast fashion is the rapid clothing cycle of buying clothing and then throwing it out only after a few wears. And while we all tend to think that we don't contribute to fast fashion, a majority of us actually do without realizing it. So about 12 million tons of textiles are sent to US landfills each year, and the average American throws away 81 pounds of clothing yearly. So this is a big problem. So parts of my project would be holding sewing workshops to teach general sewing skills and make fun projects with old clothing, putting together booklets of repurposing projects, suggestions, ways to get involved, and etc. just for the local thrift stores around town, and advocating for the environment on social platforms. So the reason that I'm here to discuss this tonight is that I would like to have the first annual townwide swap on Saturday, April 23rd, as we celebrate Earth Day. So this swap will contain clothing and household items, such as toys and furniture. Around Somerville, and I'm sure we have all seen this, but residents tend to put items on the curb or post them to Facebook to just be picked up or eventually thrown out. So my idea is to have an organized event to not only celebrate our planet, but to also reduce waste in Somerville and get these items to more people instead of just thrown out. So I would like to work with either the Environmental Commission or the Recreation Department to coordinate residents sign up to the townwide swap. And if registered by a certain date, which will be determined later, I can advertise the address of those participating in the swap, and the items will be able to be swapped instead of simply discarded, so therefore reducing waste. And my goal is that we can make this townwide swap an annual event, and that we can help protect our planet one swap at a time. And in addition, I would also ask for support of my project and allow for the advertisement of my workshops. And so my project is on Facebook and Instagram with the handle So Sustainably on Facebook and So.Sustainably on Instagram. So thank you for your time and consideration. Any questions?
Okay, I'll start and then I'll go around the table. So basically, you would have people sign up and then they would put stuff out at the curb in their own property. And then there'd be a list or a map of who was participating or an announcement that this is the day with certain hours. And then you would, we used to call it, I think, midnight salvage.
Well, you could have my whole house. Actually, I was thinking, why don't you just start at my house and just, you know.
So you're not looking for a spot where people would bring stuff. They basically just put stuff out in front of their own property, and then people could just, run around and see what's out there.
That's what I was thinking, but I'm open to any suggestions.
Because I'm thinking with larger items, if you don't have a way to transport them somewhere, we bring them to a parking lot or something, and then they're going to wind up being stuck there. I think just using the median in front of your house makes some sense.
Here's my thought. First of all, it's a fabulous project. My thought was, as she's talking, I'm looking at my ordinance going, I'm raising fees $5 for throwing stuff out, right? So is there a way, we sell stickers for bulk pickup, right? So if someone wants to get rid of something, they're not repurposing it, it's gonna go to landfill. But it's, it's potential like dressers and other things that people may want. Is there a way, without giving too much personal information out, that when we sell the sticker, we say, hey, listen, because the stickers are good for anything. They could, so when we sell their sticker, can we give information out that that person is now going to be throwing out a dresser? Obviously, like mattresses and things, I'm not sure that would work, but certainly like dressers and things that, because we do have landlords in town that when people move, sometimes they move into a smaller dwelling and they can't move all their furniture. So quite often, they'll put it out with a sticker on it saying to the garbage man, pick it up. So instead of that occurring, is there a way that maybe we need to provide you the list and the email or something? It takes a little thinking here to say, okay, hey, listen, you bought the sticker, that's great. If no one picks it up, then sure, put the sticker on it and get picked up and you go to the landfill. Maybe no one has an interest in that product. But there might be interest out there. So I'm thinking when we sell that sticker, is there a way that when we sell it, we say, hey, listen, here's your sticker that you bought to throw out in your dresser. But there's a Facebook page. You might want to go here. Someone may want it. You could hold on to your sticker because you could use it for other things. So they're kind of saving money also by repurposing an item. Do you think there's a way to make that connection?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe we could do that instead of just we have the day, but then we have more of like a everyday thing posting on Facebook.
Yeah, so I know you're looking for one day.
I think for now, just with the calendar, creeping up on us as it always does, I'm thinking just for the first year, we designate the day, bring your stuff out, and then if it doesn't move, then you come to Kevin and buy the stickers. It might be an incentive for people.
So April 23rd dovetails with the Environmental Commission's annual cleanup day. So it could really work well in terms of media engagement. I also believe, Kevin, that there are several sites already that you could promote and with the stickers, and we could put on the Environmental Commission website and social media as well. There are standing sites where people post things for free and you make arrangements to get them. And then Bridget's saying that she has some sites established as well. So, I echo what you said. It's a great idea. A lot of towns do a thing called free cycle, where everybody drops stuff off their parking lot, but that makes a mess and you have to make sure everybody takes everything home. So this is brilliant in that side, in the sense that it's on your curb and people can drive around and pick up what they want. I think there's a lot of mileage. Tomorrow we'll be at the Environmental Commission meeting, so we can discuss it then as well. If you want to come tomorrow, you're welcome to do that as well, or Tom and I can talk about it with them.
I think one thing that would be important is to just stress to people that it should be something that has a little bit of use. because you see, people have yard sales and then they leave the stuff out, sort of the remnants of stuff that didn't sell, and it's obvious why it didn't sell. Because you drive by there 6 o'clock at night and you're saying, why did someone even have this in the first place? I think we just have to be, and most people are reasonable.
One person's trash is another's treasure.
I've seen some stuff that has no value to anyone, but again, if you're handy and you can repurpose something, I like the idea of having it townwide, having the day, tying it in with Earth Day, because we're gonna run out of landfills.
If you could email that to me, I'll get that to the Environmental Commission as well.
Thank you.
All right, let's go around real quick for questions or comments, and then we'll.
One thing, I like I've used midnight salvage for a long time. That is, we buy the sticker, but the night before we put it out, we don't put the sticker on the next day.
Exactly.
You'd be surprised at how active midnight salvage is. So my suggestion is when you market this, you say, put it out the night before, because you may find that there's nothing left.
Mr. Reed.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Councilman Reed.
Thank you.
Mr. Reed is your dad.
Yes, yes. So I just, my only question is, and this is a great idea. So you're talking about promoting it sort of on website, social media. Is there gonna be a flyer or something like that going with it?
Yeah, so there would be stuff around town probably in addition to the social
Got it.
media aspect.
Got it. Okay, and then I gotta ask if weather's if it's inclement weather, I would imagine we still could do it, just things might get a little wet.
We have to.
Might think about Sunday as a rain date, maybe?
Okay,
That's why you have midnight salvage.
No rain on Earth Day, right?
no, but that's
We could designate it, from, midnight Friday
weekend of,
Yeah,
to
right.
to
yeah.
9 a.m. Monday.
Right.
Make it the whole
I
weekend.
think it's very worthwhile, and trust me, last year's Earth Day cleanup, some of the stuff I was pulling out off of the side of Route 206, I'm like, that could have been on the side of someone's property.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yeah, I was just thinking, a lot of people now have these smartphones you can take pictures of. People send pictures of the items that they have, and you could put them, if you had some sort of an internet space, you could put them on so that people could go on almost like a catalog.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Mr. Verma.
Great idea. I think it's gonna go over very well. It's good for you. Great project.
Gotta get out of my garage.
Yeah.
Mr. Pitts.
Being in the fashion business, I really like the awareness that you're bringing to fast fashion. Thank you. Great idea.
Mr. Stratton, you want
I said what I had to say, yeah, deliberative, if you need me, Old Scout's
to?
here to help.
I guess, Kevin, we should officially
Richard,
make
you
a
need
motion to
formal
adopt.
approval? I think you can get
For,
it anyway.
is this a scout-related project, or is this your individual project?
This is the Girl Scout Gold Award.
I
so
think
it's
for that, we should at least entertain a motion to endorse Bridget's project.
All in favor?
I move to accept this project.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Kevin, if you want to draft up something formal that she can present, to her scout leader so that she, fulfills your requirements. And, you have Kevin's phone number?
We've shared some emails.
Yeah. All right, so anything you need from us, so let's think about, you want to do it midnight from the 22nd to 9 a.m.
Why don't we let you decide that?
Yeah.
Dennis, I'll do mine midnight.
Yeah, I'm checking your garage the day of the cleanup.
So give the comments and thoughts tonight or the next day, and send an email.
Let's start small and start, concrete, bring the stuff out, see how it goes on, and then we'll have a whole year to refine it.
if it's April 23rd this year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we need to move quickly on the marketing pieces, so whatever you draft up, then send them along, and then we can take a look at them and get them where they need to be in the borough.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
I liked Councilman Mitchell's idea.
I think maybe coordinating something with the Somerville community page on Facebook and people posting pictures of what they're gonna throw to the curb. You know, post it on that or coordinate with the Somerville Facebook page. So everyone posts everything that they want to throw out, and then people can go look at it and, you know, pick it up if they want, and if not, then, you know, you can go buy a sticker from Tentative for $5 and throw out whatever you gotta throw out. I think that was a good idea.
Thank you.
Coordinate with the Somerville page.
To see how it goes. We don't have a lot of time, but every item that we can recycle is you know, one less item in a landfill. Yeah, good work,
Thank
Yeah.
you.
and good luck in school.
Thank you. Have a nice night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bridget.
All right, Kevin, you have a
Yeah, so currently, we had mentioned late last year that we wanted to bring this up to the council meeting, see where you wanted to go with it. Currently, with an inspection of a property, we offer through the municipalities a review of the property on the sale, which would include a carbon dioxide check, a fire alarm check, and a fire extinguisher check. They're all required now in a 1 and 2 family home on the sale. There was discussion late last year, which we deferred to this year, and to possibly go to a full CCO, which would be a full certificate of occupancy, which would mean that there would be a full inspection on that property, which would include code enforcement going into the property, reviewing their property to make sure that in addition to fire prevention, other issues are addressed. If there's open permits, if there's work done that may not have been satisfied yet, that they'll pick up prior to the sale. Now, there's it's not uncommon for municipalities to do this. It's just never been a practice in Somerville to do it. So, and usually probably resources and things of that nature and the fee structure to do that. So I really need some direction from the governing body if that's something you want to consider, so I can put together a plan, and it would effectively start in July, mid-year. And if that's something that the council wants to consider as we move forward. Obviously from a public safety standpoint, it's certainly endorsed. And it's just, again, it's definitely a change in the way we've done things for a long time here. And unfortunately, sometimes, we're gonna find things that may exist in properties that either weren't permitted or weren't closed out. But it's all about safety. So to ensure that that any work that was done was properly permitted and so forth. Because right now, if you check, and we get every day, there's properties that either go for sale or someone's inquiring. If you check, generally realtors are checking open permits. They're not looking for work that didn't get a permit, right? They're looking for open permits to make sure they're closed. And the thought process last year was to start looking at the full gamut. And I just need some direction from the governing body if that's something that you want to consider implementing in July of this year, so I can put together a program.
What additional types of inspections would be covered that we don't do right now? Comes to mind, we had a discussion several years ago about illegal sump pump connections, where people have their sump pumps connected to the sanitary sewer system. And short of going in and doing, a smoke test, there's no way to determine from the outside where that sump pump is discharging. If it's coming out to the curb or down your sidewalk, it's obvious. And if it's underground and tied into your clean out, trapped in the basement, it's not known. So would that be one specific item that this would cover?
We do that to some extent. We've done an exhaustive sump pump investigation over a period of 3 years. And unfortunately we found scenarios that had an illicit connection. This would be more involved in that. So, for instance, if someone came in for a permit, in this case, not coming in for a permit for review, they were selling their property, so it's on a resale. So it would be conducted on a resale. They would go in, they would check the sump pump, if the steps are bad, if their work was done that's not identified in the construction office as permitted work, all those types of things, from connections to finished basements to the full gamut, sometimes when we have permits that are issued for work, we do pick up some of those things. But usually they're there to just review that permit. This would basically be a full comprehensive review on a resale.
So if a homeowner does his own repairs, is a handy person and does his own plumbing or electric, then are we gonna charge them for not getting, fine them for not getting a permit?
Well, it has to be permanent work. It has to be permanent work. So property owners could do all sorts. Property could change faucets, change toilets. Those don't require permits. But if you were to take the sanitary pipe and add a bathroom in your house, right, that would require a permit. So yes, that would be included in that. So we would literally have to go back and get to a venue where we would have to tell the buyer there was a bathroom added. It's not a permitted bathroom. It needs to be inspected, they need to get a permit for it, and they need to close it out. And when I say get a permit for it, there are ways you could test that. You could do a pressure test, you could do a dye test, there's sorts of things that you could do without ripping things out. The trouble always is framing and electric. That's always a tough part, because they're hidden. But again, the electric's all about the safety of the household. So if you're buying a house in Somerville, and someone, the prior owner or prior before him or her redid all the electric panels and ran new electric, that's all required permanent work. And if you did that, that would get caught, that would get captured in a resale. So if it was done incorrectly, for the benefit of the buyer, they would be notified saying there was unpermitted work. Now, there are things that are no longer permanent. Siding, roofing no longer requires a permit. Siding no longer requires a permit in a 1 and 2 family. You could certainly do other work, but if it's permanent work and it did not receive a permit, it would get captured, potentially captured, in a full CCL. That's what they call it.
And this wouldn't be for properties, you're not using a blanket approach, you're not going to some neighborhood and saying, okay, everybody in the neighborhood's gonna get inspected. This is only if you're going to sell a house, I'm assuming, a resale. The same thing with the idea of some people have what would be considered 2-family houses that are really not registered 2-family houses. So this would not, and I believe Bobby Lynn, Fire Inspector Lynn actually brought this to the table because he said, there are things he might see and things that John Vaselli might see, and maybe if we could coordinate that with the appropriate staff, we'd be able to pinpoint those issues only on resale. So it wouldn't be a blanket approach. We're not going to hire a whole team of people to do it.
So do we need to think about rentals too? I mean, isn't that more of a challenge?
Rentals predominantly are non-inspected by us. When I say rentals, I don't mean rental 1 and 2 family. I meant large 3 and 4. So those are estate inspections.
No,
But yeah, no, it would include any 1 and 2 family home, regardless of whether it's rental or not rental. So if it's a reoccupancy, when I say we, the municipality would do a.
So if the landlord's engaging in a new tenant, then this inspection would take place with that new tenant?
It could. It's currently listed as a resale. I know in other municipalities they do re-tenant occupancies. I know that. This would be strictly on resale for this purpose.
We do have an ordinance then for a 1 and 2 family dwellings where if I own a 2-family house, we have a requirement that has to be inspected on a regular basis, and there's a fee charged for that. So that was done when Barry was involved back in the 90s, we have that. If you have a 1-family house and you rent it out, the same would apply. If you have a 2-family house and you live in one side of it, the fee is waived, but they still have to be inspected.
I wouldn't say the goal, the premise of this is to, when someone buys a home in Somerville and they move in, they don't find out later that their panel's been wired incorrectly, or, because again, the realtor's only coming in to look at open permits. That's what they come in for. So any permit where it was taken out, they want to make sure it's closed. It was done and inspected and closed, right? But there's potentially work that could have been done by either the property owner or the contractor. And that's what the issue really is, so to capture that. Now, I don't need a decision today. I just know that the council had concern of it last year as we were talking about public safety, of the fact that we do a very limited investigation, which would include smoke, fire, and fire extinguisher, right? So I know that came up late last year by the emergency services. So I mean, I can certainly leave it with you. You can, think about it and then get back to me. But the thought process was to, at one point, we actually talked about starting it this year. It was kind of unfair to do that. So we would set mid-year or whenever, we could set up where from that point on. But I really need a couple of months, just preparation, forms, advertising, fee structure, and making sure that we have adequate personnel to do that.
The house across from mine, the owner had put basically a back porch on, and it looked like it was fine, but it was not an approved construction. And he had to redo a great deal of that to make sure it didn't collapse before the new owner took over. So I mean, this isn't whether or not the locks are okay, although that's one thing they look at. This is more major things that people do to their houses that we don't know about, like adding rooms or adding a back porch, where it may not have gotten a permit, and the problem is it may not meet construction code. That's the purpose of it.
Normally when a house is sold, when it goes under contract, the buyer has a home inspection done. Would this duplicate that effort?
The home inspection is private, so I mean that's, when I say it's private, a home inspector is only as good as that home inspector is, right? And in some cases, when you're doing a sale of construction, Jeremy knows much better than I, is sometimes you can mitigate that home inspection with a fee, right? So if the property owner doesn't want to fix the back porch, you get a reduced selling price, right? So that, when you say, but the home inspector is not something I ever get to say. Ms. Pally never gets to say.
It's more of a bargaining tool.
Well,
It's not something that's present. I mean, quite often we will get calls saying, hey, could you tell me if this was done? I'm looking at this house. We only can provide them the open permits and the closed permits, right? So the reality is, unless we're in there inspecting it, we generally don't know the answer to that question.
So how does a homeowner know what he or she needs a permit for? Is there a place that they go to find that?
Yeah, I mean, we could probably make it easier for them.
I think an informed public is a safe public too, and I think that, that's gotta be part of this.
Yeah, we could probably make it easier for them by just bullet pointing that. But it's,
But I think it needs to be continual, that maybe we should, have use our channels of communication to our residents to.
Councilman, that's a great idea. In fact, Patty Hunt and I talked about doing a video that would be on the website to talk about some of these items, because it's not commonly known what you need a permit for. So, I mean, statewide sometimes. So we actually talked about doing a little YouTube video on how to fill out the application, what you need it for, things like that, to make it a little easier, but that's an excellent point.
For example, hot water heaters need a permit, and some people may decide to just put a new hot water heater in. Well, if it's gas fired, there may be issues with the hookup or what have you. So a lot of times, and I've done a lot of permits because I have a house that's always doing something. Well, what happens is your contractor will say, well, I'll say, do you get the permit? They'll say yes or no. Maybe Carol goes to get it and what have you. So it's not, it's really aimed at a lot of the homes in town that may be older, that may not be single family, that people don't know. Maybe mom moved in 1940 and now it's vacant and they have no idea what's going on. Have a house on Vanderveer, which is a very nice house, but it was really, the lady was there for years. Well, we don't know what was done, and essentially this would update a lot of the things that have to be done as well.
How costly would this be?
What's that, Tom?
How costly?
I can put together a budget for you. You've authorized the hiring of an assistant fire official and a property maintenance person. doing that. The goal is to stay within the budget of that person. Costly wise, other than that process, I don't know that there'd be additional cost. I mean, I understand there could be obviously people that bought homes that are now selling them, and they say this is the way it's been for 10 years. I lived here for 10 years, and that's where it becomes kind of a football toss, right? So it certainly will raise some questions, but again, it's all built on public safety. So sometimes those questions are mitigated by the fact that we're just doing this for the safety of the people that are moving in. That's the way it is. And I could put together a whole proposal for you. If that's something that you want, it wouldn't take me much time to do that and outline it for you, show you how it works on the org chart, show you how it works in the budget. It's being accommodated for in this year's budget to do that because we're going to share that employee.
So this is being paid for out of the borough budget.
It's expected to be paid for out of the construction office, which we have funds because the borough has been extremely active when it comes to construction and collection of construction fees. So those fees stay within that avenue, that location.
So with the house seller face a new fee?
Say it again, I'm sorry?
Is there a fee for the service?
There would be a fee for the service. Very similar to a fee that you currently have now for fire inspection like that. Right now, we have a graduated fee. Unfortunately, we have one person working in that position. It's a graduated fee, meaning if they call tomorrow, we can still do your inspection. You're just paying a much higher rate than if you called last week. So we do have a graduated fee currently for the fire. We would have a very similar graduated fee for this. And this would be in concert with both the construction office and fire prevention.
Jeremy, home inspections are required by the state of New Jersey, right? It's a state law. When you sell your house, you have to get a private home inspection. It's not?
No.
A private, no. No, you're required just to get fire, smoke, and fire.
It's advised that you as a buyer
Right.
get an inspection.
But it's not required by the state
But
law.
a bank,
There's no.
for a mortgage, the bank will require an inspection. But that's not gonna pick up any permits.
It's not
One thing, Kevin, I would be concerned with would be if there would be a punitive clause in this. If something picked up, I would like to at least consider an amnesty, fix the problem so that it meets code. I mean, my house is 90 years old. Prior to 1978, I don't know what was done. I mean, I had it inspected, I actually had 2 inspections because of the age even at that time. And they both found the same minor things. For instance, I had a hot water heater done about 4 years ago. It never occurred to me to have the chimney inspected at the same time. The company that did the hot water heater said, we recommend you have the chimney inspected. When I put the camera up there, I was shocked because the liner was completely gone. That might have not been picked up had the contractor not been reputable. So you don't know what is in the guts, especially with an older home. So I'd like to see, okay, you've identified a problem in your wiring. We're not here to slam you, with the punitive, fine. Just get a permit, get it fixed properly, and then I'm sure the seller's gonna tack that onto the sale price.
Well, yes, if it was a sale, if the sale was pending, I think the fact is that there was a defect would have to be corrected for the sale. We wouldn't have to impose any fine, we'd have to.
Correct.
So the situation would take care
It'd
of
be on the
itself.
seller to either back out or renegotiate.
But Mayor, thinking about your thought on this, we can also just come out with an amnesty program initially, right?
Yeah.
And say from July to December or December 31st, we're off an amnesty. You did work, you didn't get permits, or you think someone did work and there was no permit, or you think something's wrong, please come in, get the permit and correct the issue. And we could create an amnesty for that. That's not punitive. And then you could have the program kick in on 2023 or something like that. Something that's sufficient amount of time. And obviously, you know, with the flood that took place, there's been a ton of work. We waived permit fees for 2 months. So there's been a lot of good work, you know, as a result of people coming in and getting permits, things like that. So we can just simply come up with, I mean, other municipalities have done that as well. We come up with an amnesty program, we go out and we push it and say, listen, if you did work and, you know,
Here's your chance to.
here's your chance to come in, get your permit, we'll review it, make sure it's not a danger to you. And if you did it wrong, you're gonna have to correct it and then, you know, and then set up a program, so on a resale in 2023, something like that could work.
I think more comfortable with that because you get more compliance. Because it's not Big Brother coming in to find me. It's little brother coming in to make my house safe.
We'll limit that to 1 and 2 family homes.
You want to put something together, and then we'll take a look at it after we have our budget done, and something to think on.
Absolutely.
Okay with everybody?
Mm-hmm.
All right, good.
Would that end up being in the form of a resolution? I mean,
Probably an ordinance.
so we got to do an ordinance on it?
Be an ordinance, but let's see the proposal first.
Yeah, let me put something together and see how it comes out.
Good. All right, our next discussion item, and give a brief introduction here. We've had some discussion tonight about the emergency services in the complex on Gaston Avenue. We talked a little bit about the rental schedule. We have some paperwork later to get that in place. We had the consultants here, it's about 2-3 weeks ago. We had all the departments come in and look at the design, look at the needs that they project for their individual departments. And I thought it'd be important, because at some point in the near future, there'll be a sign going up on the property with a picture of what we think it will look like. And I thought it'd be a good idea to have Mr. Trevor come in and give us a brief overview of where we stand right now, what it will look like, a little overview, and I will turn it over to Mr. Trevor.
Thanks, man. I can sit. Okay, sorry.
Will our technology work the first time? We've had a couple of glitches the last time.
Kevin came down
Turn this
today and
thing on.
made sure it worked.
Good. All right, I'm going to turn to the side. Yeah, come on over here.
Maybe, there you go. What? I'm going to try and talk quickly but not fast. But just as a way of introduction, this facade, and I'll show you more in a moment, is terracotta. And our redevelopment plan calls for any development within Gaston Avenue to be reflective of the community in the area. And when we initially started this 3 or 4 years ago, we talked about the area and having it fit in, and I'll show you some slides in a little while that show how it fits. But there were brickyards up in that area of town with only bricks. Bricks look like terracotta. So that's why it looks like that. So this is just a brief history. Project is 20 years old. Maybe longer, nearly as, maybe as old as Mr. McAlevey, I don't know. But there were a number of studies done, and during 2002, the cost of doing something just fire and for police was $12.5 million. In 2016, there was another committee formed primarily by the fire department, and they came up with a 24,000 square foot building, essentially for the fire department, and that was still pretty pricey at $9 million, and that was now 6 years ago. So in 2019, the council president, the then council president, convened a meeting and said, all right, let's look at the fire department's needs, police department's need, OEM's needs, the squad's needs, and we went outside the box a little and said, let's look at Somerset County. They were had made it known they were looking for a backup 911 call facility. So we had a meeting and we met with all the various units, and short story out of a very long story, we came up with a cost of, did I miss a slide there? No, I didn't. Of around $49 million to include all those departments. We also looked at how would you finance something like this, because you're talking a lot of money, and we'll get to its cost in a little while. But there's the traditional way of funding general obligation bonds, which affect the borough's long-term. If you went that way, it affects the borough's long-term ability to do other stuff, because it would max out on the amount of money that we could borrow. Somerset County Improvement Authority could do it, and we would repay them. What's called redevelopment area bonds. Another word for those is junk bonds. Loans, the state has a program, they now call it the I-Bank. If it's water related, you can borrow money at, I don't know, what is it, Kevin, at 2%? And sometimes they'll forgive 50% of that. Other sort of finance programs, but what we recommended was find a developer who could design, finance, build, and lease a property back to us. Now, the benefits of that were it allows the borough to manage all aspects. Under the New Jersey Housing and Redevelopment law, we could include other properties and sell them if they're in a redevelopment area to help offset the costs. We were able to negotiate a lease period over an extended period of time because we did GO bonds, and one of the others we could probably be locked into 20 years. And we would ultimately own the facility. So the final recommendation was that we would go with fire, we would go with police, we would have an emergency operations center in it, we would have a office for the rescue squad, but the rescue squad would not be located in the building. And through a whole series of events, the county 911 facility went away. That saved us $18 million. Not just getting rid of the county, but the squad and some of the other stuff too. And what it also did, part of the original design was to have a parking deck because there are going to be so many people in the building that we needed a parking deck. So we got rid of that as well, and we saved a further $800,000. So the estimated cost is $31 million. The project was approved last October, and once you approve a project such as this, there's a 45-day appeal period. So we couldn't really take any action until December of last year, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So we entered into and had approved in January a build-to-suit lease, which is to finance it, design it, build it, and lease it back to us. That was a document that allowed the developer to go out and finance the project. This is being financed through private bonds. When they went out to the marketplace, they found that the interest rates had gone up somewhat from October of last year through to now. So they've asked for an amendment to the build-to-suit lease to modify the rent payments based on current interest. We had in that lease a termination option which said in year 10 or in year 20, for a fixed price, we could refinance and get out of the lease. They came back and said, no, why don't you consider that you can get out of the lease at any time you want as long as you make us whole? Net present value calculations. It's like if you want to pay off your home loan early, you go to the lender and say, I want to pay off now. How much do I owe you? Because I know it's not the amount that my contract says. And that's called net present value. And we also had them build into the new amendment where if there's any cost savings on construction, we would split those costs with them. They would give us a check that says, here's $100,000 or whatever it is. So we believe we did well. That's on the agenda for this evening. Now, if you're wondering how we're going to pay for it, this is what was approved in, I believe it was January. This is the payment schedule, and you see the first 5 years here it was $1 million a year, then it slowly went up. And then because it's a 40-year lease, we compounded it there. This is the change based on interest, because we went up 0.5%. It's a significant amount of money over a significant amount of time. So we have always worked on the premise that we would pay the debt service on this from new borough money. We wouldn't impact on the taxpayer as they currently exist. So there's two columns here. These are the estimates for all pilot programs, current and future, in the borough. And it's broken out exactly the same as this scale here. This column, which is really the important one, I think, is the pilots that we have agreements or will be entering into agreements for that we're not collecting money on yet. And this is only calculated from 2024, which is when the lease will begin. So some of these numbers don't add up to 30 years, but some pilots doesn't add up to 25 years, but some other pilots are. But what you will see is we're maintaining the low payments at the beginning here, and they slowly creep up. And the average increase is about $250,000 per period over the length of the lease. But you'll see that in every instance, the new income that the borough will be getting by far exceeds the amount that we will be paying on the lease. So it's a net plus to the community and it's a net plus to the borough. And that's just it graphically. Right? All pilots, all new pilots. I've got to read it myself. The revision is this number.
Right. And the bottom one was the previous.
And that's the original one. So, graphically it shows it quite readily that the borough is not being put into a tough situation even though the interest rates went up. Now the fun. Gaston Avenue, Cliff Street. This is the site plan. This is probably the third or the fourth site plan that is done. This is the one we've set on. You've got a secondary entrance to the north. We moved the building down to allow for a better traffic flow because this is the police facility here. This is the fire facility. And the police were concerned that if they only had one entrance, if there was a real serious emergency, having both fire and police trying to get in and get out, it would really create chaos. So this will be the primary entrance for police. This will be the fire first responders entrance. The only exception to that, this is the big ladder truck, and it'll have to come back in this way. There's also some discussion, not fully completed yet, that these parking stalls will have solar panels over the top of them. Generator will be over here. There will be some provision for EV back through here. And these are just architects' renderings. This is just looking down at the facility and how it fits Cliff Street, Gaston Avenue, the funeral home, and the homes around it. And you'll notice that there's greenery around the parking lot. This is just looking to the southeast. That's the rear of it, and that's just looking from the other direction. So I think the architects have done a good job of keeping it sort of compact within the community itself. Just another couple of views looking at the front and looking at the rear again. And hopefully none of us have to ever visit this, but that's a roller door. and it opens onto what they call a sally port, and that's where the police take you if you've been bad. And it's a fully isolated facility. So this is the ground floor, police, the sally port. The reception is at the rear of the building. That door will be locked. That door will be locked. It'll be a totally secure facility. What we have to do to finalize the police facilities, we need to get approval from the Department of Corrections and the Juvenile Justice Commission as to the layout and where we hold people, because these are interview rooms. I'm getting lost myself. They're holding rooms there and there. And you cannot have juveniles mixed with or be seen by adults. So there's ongoing discussions. We met with the Department of Corrections last week. We'll meet with them and the Juvenile Justice Commission again in the forthcoming weeks, and we'll just get this layout fully approved. The fire department layout, there is a mezzanine. This becomes storage and training areas for the fire department. This becomes, I believe, a storage area. This is the evidence locker for the police, and this is the boiler room. So it's between floors, and we're able to do that because the height of the lower level is high to allow the fire trucks entrance and exit, and to lift the cabs up to do work on them, etc. And this is the top floor, which is essentially administrative, showers, OEMs, emergency center, office of OEM, facilities for the fire guys there, gun terminals for the fire department, offices, etc. And this is designed looking to the future. Not all of this may well be fitted out in its final configuration when it's built, because we're planning on a 50 to 60 year lifespan on this building, and we know that things are going to change. And that's it. I'll answer any questions you've got, but that is the first public presentation that we've been able to do because of COVID.
Colin, without time-specific deadlines, we're taking steps tonight. Hopefully, council will approve the amendment to the lease purchase. From the time, and there's still some engineering to do on the site, from the time that the first shovel goes in the ground till the day that somebody occupies the building, what kind of time
Probably
frame?
20 months.
20 to 24 months.
So
Yeah,
Just shy of 2 years.
we're targeting January, February, March, late March or April of 2024. That's based on getting all the approvals we need, of course.
there are
but
variables like weather and materials
That's
and
all.
labor.
That's
and,
all.
you know,
The only
it's-
thing that we can't guarantee is supply chain. Everything else, we've got a pretty good timeline
I
on
think
that.
it's important for the public to have just a
Yeah.
sense that it's, just because the sign is gonna go up in the next couple of weeks,
Hopefully this week,
that
yeah.
doesn't mean that the trucks are gonna be rolling soon.
No, but
There's environmental work to do.
taken the initiative a little. They've been out there doing environmental due diligence right now. They've been doing perk tests. They've been working on the stormwater sewer and sanitary sewer. So they're trying to get in front of the game so that when we do pull the trigger, we can move as quick as we can.
We also have to get DOT approval to move our construction equipment in from the state highway.
Because that's 28.
The other point that was brought up over and over again is, are we going to move that the sewer line under the building? Because remember, there's a 48 or 60 inch culvert that
That's
takes stormwater. Okay,
That's a 6 foot. Oh, I've turned it up.
yeah, it's 60.
That's a 6 foot diameter stormwater pipe.
And we don't have to move it. because when the architects came in a couple of weeks ago, they said, good news, we can build over it. It looks like it's pretty sturdy.
We had the engineers go in with a TV camera, and they dropped the TV camera in here, and they traveled west like that, and they traveled east like that.
Any seventh grader in the town will tell you it's pretty good under there.
Yeah, well, what a seventh grader will tell you too, that right here, this is a beautiful brick arched chamber. It's not a pipe at all on Gaston Avenue. It's beautiful. Big arch.
That's why we haven't got grand opening.
But back
Tunnel.
here, this is still the 72-inch pipe.
Yeah.
There's a sanitary sewer running right through the middle of it.
Why would some
The good old days.
have a pipe under a piece of property and not under the street? It's not unusual.
Yeah, but I mean, the engineers have looked at that structure, both inside and on the outside. We've looked at all the alternatives. Moving it, replacing it, lining it, and we will probably line it up to be very, very sure that structurally it's sound. It is, according to the engineers. And we're going to bridge it. And they will come back.
Once the building's built, we don't have access to it except from the street.
Well, they are also going to prepare for it an emergency plan which takes into account the typical sort of things that can happen to a pipe, like a rupture or erosion. But there's no erosion in it. All the joints and seals are good. So it's essentially, if there's a catastrophic break in it, how do we get in there and repair it without the building going down the hole with it? So that will all be accounted for.
One thing about the payout, if you look at the payout that we have proposed, those are predicated on $2024, and their payout will be the same for the life of the agreement. But if you look at the income from it, that will be escalating, because obviously rents and income from those rents on the pilots will likely increase over the next 40 years.
We always estimate pilots very, very conservatively, and I can't tell you what the rent on a 2-bedroom apartment in 25 years is going to be, but it's going to be a little bit more
Probably
than
the cost
what
of
we
a gallon of
calculated.
gas, yeah.
Sorry, Jen.
Is there community meeting space in
No.
the building?
We're building a new, or we have had donated to us 4,000 square feet in the Avalon Bay building near the station. And we're currently, Kevin and I, working on the fit out, and that will be community meeting space. It'll be right next door to a parking deck, be close to the station, it'll be close to surface parking. So we didn't feel that there was a need in this building to turn it into a community meeting facility when we've got 4,000 feet near the station.
Our next step, obviously, other than the approval of the lease agreement, which we're going to have to negotiate or to work out with Stonewater so they can get financing, the next step that we have is for each department to do the furniture, fixtures, and equipment that they need. And at our meeting a few weeks ago, we kind of determined there's very little the police are going to be able to bring from this building to the new facility. Maybe their guns, and that's about it. Same thing with the fire department. So we're essentially looking at a brand new police fire services facility. And what we're going to do is, and what we have done is ask each one of the departments, we've given them the floor plans of what is going to be there. They now have to put their equipment in there, so we have an idea of where the fixtures have to go and what have you. And I think, Colin, you've gotten some responses on that, haven't we?
I will have them all by Wednesday.
Alright, so
The fire department's done theirs, the OEM have done theirs.
Last question then, Colin, from the governing body standpoint, we have the paperwork to do tonight.
Yep.
From that point on, then, what's next? We finalize the layout of the police department. Have a final sit down with
it'll be iterative, Mayor. They're currently as I told all the chiefs, if you want, I'll buy you crayons as well. Here's your floor plan. Tell us what you want on it. We've done the initial electric and cabling work already, so we know roughly where the outlets will be, where the lights will be, etc. So they're now working on desks and chairs and computer stations and things like that. Pardon me. We'll give that back to the architects who will take it to the interior designers, and probably in 4 weeks we'll get a compendium. This is the equipment, this is where it's going to go, and we'll refine that down. We've got some time because we've got the footprint. They've already met with John Maselli and Dave Myers and our consulting engineers. They hope that they can start site work as soon as the weather gets better. And they will draw their foundation and footing permits probably August or September. And while they're finalizing all the construction plans, they should have all the construction drawings in to the construction office probably October. Hopefully, we can then we'll bring them to the planning board prior to that, but they should get their permits and be ready to go.
So conservatively, by this time next year, we'll see actual work on the site.
Absolutely. Yeah.
This is the best part of this is that the stakeholders themselves have an active part in this. This isn't something that's going to be laid over to them. They're actually coming up with what they need, where they need to put it. And that's really, they have an investment in this, which has been very refreshing to see, because all of the departments have worked together, and I have to say, it's great. Just to sit in the room, and Dennis, I think you were there for some of it, Colin and I were, to just see these guys all working together, and they're shaking their, oh yeah, this is good.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
We've been talking about
We've seen
facilities for, as Colin said, 20 years.
Over the last 12 months, we've seen the excitement in grown men really accelerate. And even Frank now smiles at me.
Wow.
All right,
So any other questions?
Just keep us posted, and if there's action that we need to take, we'll support you along the way, and we'll make sure that the sign gets up, and then we'll field the questions.
We have to take down the stuff that's on the fence, that's blocking in the wind, that's.
Yeah, that'll probably go.
It'll be just no, thank you.
Thank you, Mick.
I've said before, and I'll reiterate, is the biggest public project this town has undertaken since, I would say, the construction of the high school, which was 1970. I think it opened in 70, 72. So it's, as we grow, the need for facilities grows, and we will keep the public posted as we go along. All right, we have several ordinances for introduction. First one is 0307, establishing a cap.
2666.
I'm sorry, 2666, I'm sorry. To establish a cap bank, which is procedural, so I'll have a motion for introduction.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Council members Granville Brady.
Yes.
Tom Mitchell.
Yes.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Fred Weed.
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes. Ordinance 2667, which is increasing our bulk pick sticker cost from $4 to $5. I'll have a motion for introduction.
So moved.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady.
Yes.
Tom Mitchell.
Yes.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Fred Weed.
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
2668, amending ordinance 2515-170221, alcohol and beverages licensing. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady.
Yes.
Tom Mitchell.
Yes.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Fred Weed.
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
And 2669 is approving an amendment for lease for the property known as Tax Block 73 in the Gaston Avenue redevelopment area with FDS Somerville LLC, as we just discussed.
So moved.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
I'm sorry, Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Kevin, what will the schedule for adoption of?
I think the appropriation limits, I think that has to be on before we introduce next week, if I'm not mistaken, or,
We've got 2 weeks for that.
yeah. The other ones will be on in the first meeting in,
April.
April.
That's April.
first, yes.
Okay,
So this will be 2 weeks for the,
just for 2666.
2669.
Do you need 2669 at the next meeting?
Would be good.
It would be a good idea.
Yeah.
All right, let me check the advertising schedule on that.
Okay. All right, we have several ordinances for hearing and adoption. We'll take them one at a time. First one is 2661, authorizing and encouraging electric vehicle supply service, equipment, and make-ready parking spaces. I need a motion for a public hearing on that ordinance.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
All right. Any public question or comment
In general or about that ordinance?
about that ordinance? We take them one at a time. We'll have the public session after the ordinances. All right, motion to close public.
So moved.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady, Tom Mitchell, Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Motion for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Granville Brady,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
All right, our next ordinance, 2662, amending Chapter 80 entitled Fire Prevention, Required Inspection and Fees. Motion to open public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed, Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Public comment? Hearing none, motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Council members Granville Brady,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Next ordinance, 2663, amending Chapter 166-44, titled No Stopping or Standing, to include some parking spaces on South Bridge Street. Motion for public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Public comment? Well, when we have the next.
Parking and nobody has anything.
This is from the public? No? Okay, well, motion to close public.
So moved.
Second.
Granville Brady,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed, Randy
Yes.
Pitts.
Yes.
Motion for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Now you may ask.
So just question, what are we referring to here?
The spaces that are, when you come out of Somerset Development location, the spaces that are hitting you kind of in the face, they're between, you know where Rocky's eatery is?
Where the new traffic is.
Yeah, where the new traffic light is on South Bridge Street.
Right after you come up from
But the railroad state, the
It's
underpass.
Yeah, it's.
Okay.
So you used to be allowed to park across the street because there was no traffic signal there. Now there's a signal there, so it's at the T intersection, so it does eliminate a couple of spots there.
Okay.
So while it looks like it's eliminating a lot of spots, a large portion of it, you couldn't park anyway. So it's really from Veterans Memorial to Second Street on South Bridge, you can to park.
And once this is adopted, the signage will go up and. Yeah. All right. Roll call.
Granville Brady,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
All right. Last ordinance, 2664, and I'll read this in its entirety. Approving an amendment to the financial agreement and authorizing execution of an amendment and restated financial agreement by and between the Borough of Somerville and A&A Somerville Urban Renewal LLC for property located on 40 Haynes Street, blocks 3, 13, and 14 in Block 50. Motion to open public?
So moved.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yeah.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Public hearing, questions on this? Hearing none, motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yeah.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Motion for adoption?
So moved.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yeah.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, we're at our open public meeting section, motion to open?
So moved.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady, Tom Mitchell, Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Open to the public, if you have a comment or question, approach the mic, name and address for the record, address your comments or questions to myself. And I see a familiar face. Introduce yourself, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name is Mateo Garcia. I'm a resident of 171 Mercer Street. I wish to use this public commenting time to avail myself of the opportunity to speak about some of the observations I have about Somerville and partake in the ritual of civic engagement and render the town council meetings an opportunity for the town council to also get a pulse of citizen engagement. As a lifelong resident of the town, I'm proud of all the work town leaders, interested parties, and citizens have put into generating a certain buzz about the town, to care enough to invest in the growth and prosperity of our Main Street, and to put thought and considerations into issues both big and small. So please first allow me the opportunity to thank the town council and the mayor for all the hard work and diligence you put in behind the scenes. So I do wish to thank you. I too keep the interests of my town at heart. I grew up here, went through the public schools, went away a bit for college, came back, and now desire to add my voice to the chorus of energy making our town great. Our downtown is lively, buildings are going up, and there's a certain hum in the air if you listen closely. Something is happening in this town. It's the reality of what our nation's president said during the State of the Union address. It's time for America to get back to work and fill our great downtowns again. In these moments of blossom, we must also take stock of those most vulnerable in our town, and I wish to raise some of those issues. These issues I raise are not to establish debate or to antagonize, but merely to expose and to put on the record concerns I have, and those concerns I've heard from friends and neighbors. I'm a resident of the Brookside Gardens apartments. Lease renewals are being sent, and the talk amongst the neighborhood is the shock at the recent rent increases. My rent is being raised by nearly $200. I've heard from at least 3 different neighbors who've had their rent go up by $300. I expect the occasional rent increase, but this year I've seen a large jump. Neighbors are already talking about moving out. Others have already expressed concern about yet another bill going up. Food, gas, everything has gone up. And now also the rent, and this time by a significant amount in the Brookside Gardens apartments. This sudden jump in rent creates questions such as, is the landlord looking to outprice people? Is the property owner, Edgewood Properties, looking to build apartment towers with exorbitant rents like those going up on Main Street and around the train station? Are they looking to beat the clock on any state legislative effort that may cap annual rent increases? Does this town wish to cater to a certain income bracket and get rid of those who are traditionally economically disadvantaged? Minorities, persons of color, immigrants. I recently heard from an informed citizen who noted that the same property owner of Brookside Gardens received 5 years free of property taxes on a new building. To the extent this is true, I ask the town council to please be mindful of certain grand actions such as these. I urge any members of the public or media listening to take interest in these business deals. Such information is shocking when one considers that in New Jersey, residents complain about 2 things: high property taxes and high rent. Should it be true that a developer who plans to build apartments with rents around $3,000 a month received a significant tax break would be hard to comprehend. I ask this deliberating body and the mayor to not fall prey to one developer. I ask this town council and the mayor to not be strung along by the interests of one business person. Somerville must remain a socioeconomically diverse town. My second topic concerns the assault and unlawful arrest of a black teenager at the Bridgewater Commons Mall last month. The national conversation on race came to this area. Somerville, however, can step up and be proactive. It is with profound shame that I say a few days ago a sign with the F word and the phrase BLM, so it read F BLM, was draped over American flags on the pedestrian walkway connecting Somerville to the Bridgewater Commons Mall. That is a disgrace and an embarrassment to this area. I voice my concern as a citizen of this town and ask the town council to please take steps to proactively improve the relationships and dialogue between our police and its citizens. Somerville can rise above Bridgewater, and we mustn't let what happened there occur here. As a citizen, I wish my town leaders to know I believe in the hearts of our townspeople and believe Somerville can be a regional model for what good community policing can look like. Lastly, and this is a more granular topic, the basketball court on Mercer Street needs to be repaired. It was destroyed during Hurricane Ida. I do want to give a shout out to the town's public works departments because they do an amazing job, and I hope that this is on their list of repairs. The basketball court affords our youth, especially in times of summer, a great and safe space to play at. And before the summer rolls around, I really wish to see it repaired. It is a danger, possibly a lawsuit waiting to happen, and so I hope that's something that the town can also act. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it.
I would just like to just make a comment. The gentleman that just spoke is a prime example of the kind of students that our high school produces. I had the pleasure of knowing Mateo 12 years ago, I guess it was, when he was in high school. And if that's an example of what our schools are producing, we're doing something right. To your last point, the basketball courts are in the process of being rehabilitated. It's a long, laborious process, but we're dealing with FEMA, we're dealing with insurance companies. They are high on the list.
He received 3 proposals. The third proposal came in yesterday, actually.
So we'll be ready to award a contract.
Yeah, we're hoping to get that approval probably in the April meeting if you would on that one.
So we can avoid March Madness now?
Yeah.
And I thank you for your comments and hope you will stay involved. Again, you've done the orange and black proud, and I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any additional public comment? We have a visiting mayor tonight, so Mayor Negro, please come forward, introduce yourself, and let's chat.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor Sullivan and fellow council members. I'm happy to speak this evening about what I see going on in Somerset County. I'm not happy these days when I view our county and the amount of growth that's happening around us. I believe overdevelopment is causing a lot of our flooding issues. And I was kind of shocked to see the Avalon Bay development there by the train station and think, where is all that stormwater going to go? It's going to Manville. And you're not the only town that sends stormwater to us. I get it from Hillsborough, I get it from other places, and I believe it's a problem. You know, I believe in climate change, right? There's something happening to our climate. Because when I was a kid, I used to go to Colonial Park and skate on the ponds. They don't freeze anymore, right? After Ida, we kind of took our eyes off the ball after Hurricane Irene. We had a good run. Our flood commission fell apart. We got hit with Ida. Massive amount of rain in 6 hours, right? Never seen before. Manville got 11¼ inches of rain in about 7 hours. Unheard of. So, I don't know how we stop it. You know, I believe that overdevelopment is going to be a big problem for Somerset County. And stormwater management has to be like, right now they have rules to manage to like a 100-year storm. We got to go way beyond that. I don't know what the stormwater management plans are for Avalon Bay, but I'm going to find out. Because I don't know where they're going with that stormwater. Okay? And another topic that's near and dear to my heart, as a conservative Republican, I believe in lower taxes. Governor Murphy, a few years ago, passed legislation to have stormwater utilities in the state. There isn't one. No county has a stormwater utility. I think a town does down in Princeton. We need a stormwater utility in Somerset County. Okay, all 21 towns need to participate to try to confront climate change and stormwater runoff with green infrastructure and go back and retrofit. A lot of the causes of this flooding issue is overdevelopment. There's so many areas in our county that have no stormwater retention. They just pump it to the river. And I know we could do better, right? I'm not happy when I see my citizens suffer. I lived in Manville my whole life. The town has changed. Floodwater levels have gone up. We had 2 feet in our Borough Hall. Unheard of. And it's only going to go higher. So, I just want to bring this attention to Somerset County. Stormwater utility, green infrastructure, stormwater management has to be on the table with every project you guys approve. Okay, I want to come to your meeting. I'm tired of hearing a lot of talk about we're going to try to do something to help Manville. Let me tell you something. Nobody's helping Manville. The president came here. The entire congressional delegation was here. We haven't gotten $1 of disaster aid 6 months after the event. I still have people living in cars or foundations collapsed, and they have no hope of when they're going to get aid. And nobody can tell me when they're going to get aid. No one. They said, just be patient, it's coming. It may take 1.5 to 2 years. What do you tell a resident who can't live in the house, who doesn't want to live there no more, walked away and has to pay their property taxes and mortgage payment? I got a tough job. Probably one of the hardest in Somerset County. Just thankful. The good Lord above, we didn't lose anybody the night of the storm. And we could have. Gas explosions, homes blew up. It was tough, very stressful. I didn't have as much gray hair as I do now. I don't wish that on anyone. So, my message is we have to focus on stormwater with all the development that's going on around us. I'm not happy with what's happening in Somerset County. I think it's overdevelopment. I don't understand why everybody wants these high-priced apartments. When I got married, all I wanted to do was buy a house and have a lawn to cut. I guess kids don't want that anymore. I don't know. I guess the American dream is something else than when I grew up. But anyway, I thank you for listening to me tonight, and I'm going to be going to other towns. You're the first town I visited, but I'll be at Hillsborough next. They just approved a massive development on their golf course, putting in 27 acres of impervious coverage. All the water comes to Manville. I don't know. I need help. I got to bring the spotlight to my town, and if you guys have ideas how we can partner together, I'd love to come to your meeting again just to hear what you have to offer folks. Dr. Abrupta, if you reach out to Dr. Abrupta from Rutgers, he's a great guy. He has a lot of great ideas for green infrastructure. But it all takes money, right? Nobody's going to fund this stuff unless we get federal help. So I just know my government could do better.
Aaron, you talk to the county about the utility?
Not yet. I plan on doing that tomorrow. Don't tell them.
It's on YouTube.
As former chair of the Environmental Commission, I completely understand what you're talking about. I've sat on webinars on the utility, the stormwater utility. The Environmental Commission is very engaged in that work, and 2 members are serving on that committee that Roger's chairing. So I hear you, and would love to learn more about the possibilities of connecting all the towns together. Because you're right, it's a real problem and it's not going away. And
It's only getting worse.
And development is making it worse.
Mayor, I thank you, and I thank you for your work with the people of your community. We all faced a difficult few years, and I understand everything you said.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you letting me speak this evening.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Any additional public comment, question? Hearing none. Oh, yes.
Yep. 46 East Main Street, Graziano Carollo. I had 3 things that I want to speak about. One was answered. There's the second thing I want to talk about is there's 2 massive potholes on Warren Street right inside my building. You could literally you've seen them, right? Everyone's seen them. Okay. They've been there for a couple months now, ever since that storm, that last snowstorm we had. So just seeing when will those be repaired.
We could probably do a temporary right now and then get back, with more permanent. They're popping up now all over. It's traditionally this time of year. And Kevin's jotted it down. He'll share it with Public Works tomorrow.
Okay, cool. Last thing is, most of you might know that I'm trying to pursue a dispensary cannabis license. And I found a location that I thought was in the zone that was approved on the highway, on 206, away from everything, enough parking, but then the landlord called up to town, spoke to the zoning officer, I believe his name is John, and they said that wasn't in the zone that you guys had approved. The corner of 206 and South Bridge, there's a stucco building there. I've been in talks with the landlord now since the inception of the license, and he had, he said he wanted me in there, and he just needed to do his homework a little bit. And then when he called the town, they said that's not part of the zone. And
it's within the Guardian line scope assessment.
Yeah.
Is that town labs? Is that
John's
what's
correct.
the old town laboratory?
Yeah, that's Guy Hoyt's building located at 1 South Bridge.
Well, it's not his building anymore. He passed away.
I was trying to just reference it for the.
Yeah.
It's adjacent to the substation.
So there's a surgery center in the front, and then another type of medical thing, but then in the back, there's available space.
And that's not a B5.
How is that not in the zone?
How is that not in the zone?
So that's what I said.
The highway.
How's that not in the
So it's
zone?
in the it's in the I-1. The council and the planning board approved the B5 zone. The B5 zone sits on sits on 206, starting basically at the one property of south of Walgreens. That's where it starts. So like Sarah Jane's isn't in it. That property is not in it. The diner is not in where the diner was.
Is there any property that's in it that is
so the B5 includes, off the top of my head, it includes the law where Dunkin' Donuts is.
That's where it starts.
Right.
Yeah, and then continues around, goes on to 202, and then goes down 22. So that's the area. So the thought process back then, obviously we had a timetable that we had to meet because you had to choose whether you were doing it, right? By a certain
Yeah, remember that.
So after we had, the governing body had met a couple of times, it was decided we would wait. When I say we, I'm including me with you guys, is that the retail locations on the highway would be included, which were considered B5 districts that are in the B5. Anything industrial was not included. Anything that's a B6 was not included. The Cannabis Committee met a couple weeks ago because someone approached us on it being allowed in the B6. B6 included the diner, where I believe they're coming back in with a proposal for a car wash. So the B5 was the area that we went through the process and defined. If you want to explore, I mean, right now you can't get a license, right? So the state of New Jersey hasn't even opened it up yet. So we've had, and I explained this to Graziano, we've had some interest, right?
Well, the issue is whether or not the borough board the council would like to change or address this.
If you wanted to change it, there are other districts that people are requesting that you change as well. But you'd have to go through the same process.
Now, with the current industrial zones, there are no classes of industrial zone. It's just an I zone.
No, there is classes.
Are there classes in
so
industrial?
this particular area that Graziano is speaking about is called the II, and that includes that building. It includes PSE&G substation. It includes going down South Bridge, almost up to Holly Glen. And then Holly Glen starts to go out in the streets.
At the risk of being accused of spot zoning, hate to use that word, but is that something we ought to take a look at?
You can certainly ask the planning board to review it.
You know what I mean? Because it's kind of like 206. I mean,
And that was,
I wouldn't have known, okay? You know,
Can I say something also?
I always look at this 206.
yeah, that was the intent of the council, is to have it on that highway district and
The
not
high, on the
on Main
highway
Street.
district and not on Main Street.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that
Districts.
property is not listed.
So it meets all the criteria that you guys wanted, right? You know, you want it away from the town, on the highway, enough parking, you know, all that stuff,
That
right?
is our
Yeah, I
intent.
mean,
Somerville's not a big town, it's 2 square miles. The spots that you guys, or the zones that you guys want these to be in, there's all like McDonald's, Exxon, Wendy's. These places aren't going anywhere, you know? They're gonna be there forever. So, I mean, if you guys are really serious about putting a dispensary in town, you know, I'd consider opening that, you know, letting that zone in there too.
I gotta tell you something. I'm not particularly in favor of it at all because that's my philosophy.
That's your personal choice.
Since 70% of the people in town said it was okay, I represent the people, I don't represent me. It would just seem to me as if that with common sense would say that since that looks like it's on 206, even if it isn't, we ought to at least give it some stuff.
There's not a lot of businesses on 206, and the
No,
intent was.
There's an interest. So if the council's interested in doing it, all I would suggest is that you talk about it and consider that. The applications are not out yet. You are gonna receive, I mean, you're gonna receive whether, you know, and I explained this to Graziano, is someone's gonna be interested in acquiring, no one says you can't acquire properties, right? So when we looked at it, and I'm just reminding them how the process came about, is we looked at the malls. We have multiple malls in the district. Whether the landlord or not wanted them or not, we didn't care. We said it'll be allowed there. If the landlord decided they wanted them, that's great. You know, so whatever perspective, you know, if they didn't want them, who knows? We didn't interview the people within those districts. So what happens is, you know, while applicants may say there was no space available, we recognize that would be difficult. Recognize that. However, we don't really know that.
No, but it seems to me as if that particular spot would be less visible than having something right on 206. That's John Burke's old mall, if you remember, when he put it in there, and that's pretty visible. I don't know if I want to
What is
say
pretty visible?
that where Dunkin' Donuts is. Yeah. that's pretty
Honestly, if the landlord allowed it, I think.
I spoke to that landlord.
I think they would be knocking down the door to put it there.
Oh, so we can.
Everybody's interested in how.
Jay, we can certainly put it on as a discussion item. at one
The
of our
choices
meetings,
are
yeah.
to rezone that lot or to amend the ordinance to
If an
open
applicant
that
wants to
I-zone.
come in there and wants us to rezone the lot, I think the committee is gonna require that applicant to pay the fees to make that happen. Just like any other change, right? So that's what I'm saying is I think that you have to look at that. You can't just, you know, obviously, if you're looking for an applicant to change it, there are gonna be other applicants who are gonna say, wait, time out, I wanted to change it and it wasn't allowed because this was the district. And if an applicant's asked to change it, the applicant has 2 options. One is they can go to the Board of Adjustment, right? They can go to the Board of Adjustment and go through that process, right? If they want to get it changed, like other people have done, there's also a process for that costs money. And I know the application fee is $2,000, and license is $10,000. I'm not looking to add cost onto the applicant, but it isn't a change that should be borne by the borough. It should be a change that's borne by the applicant.
So to the gentleman's concern that he is well within his rights to go file with the zoning board and ask for a use variance.
See, I don't mind doing that. Like, what was the cost of doing that?
I was explaining to Graziano, I was trying to be as candid as possible. The state doesn't even have applications out.
They're coming out
They're supposed to be coming
next
out.
week.
I know, Gina, but I've been through this 5 times already. This is maybe the 5th time, I'm sorry, Councilman, this is the 5th time with the new date, right? And the reality is I think there's a lot of people in Graziano's position that are looking at locations. Today, they're not available. We don't know if they'll be available in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. We don't know. But right now, there's no landowner that applicants have made me aware that said they don't want to go. But that's because they don't have vacancies, right? We don't know that that's not going to change, right? And my only, and again, it's not even my concern. The governing body could feel what's in their best interest to have the applicant go through a process. But in the most candid way of speaking is, any applicant can go to the Board of Adjustment. I just don't know if that would be a successful application.
But he bears the risk.
Which is, and being candid,
board,
it's a significant risk, yeah.
I just think it's, that is an option, going to the zoning board and, spending all that money, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. But I feel like it's a little silly that wasn't approved in the zone that you guys want this dispensary to be in. I mean, it's on the highway, it's out of the way, it's got plenty of parking. Why wasn't that included?
Is retail allowed in that zone?
It wasn't included because it was an industrial zone. Industrial zones were not included
And it's not retail allowed in those zones.
And it's not retail.
Right.
So the municipality and the planning board made a very conscious decision to put it in a B5 zone.
Which already supports a
that
retail.
supports retail and it has the parking and everything. And again, maybe that does too, but they looked at the retail components of it. And I will say maybe there was a mistake not adding a B6. There might have been, but the only B6 is the proposed car wash, is the old diner, right? That would be, again, a retail component. That's the only thing that was left off. And I think that was only left off because there was an owner of that was in front of the board looking for an approval already on something else.
Kevin, if that building is a surgery center, right? That's the one, the white building
Yes,
on the corner.
it's not good.
How does that qualify as industrial?
I didn't write the zone.
It is what it is, but.
Yeah, it is what it is. So, I mean,
all I'm asking is you guys could just relook at it.
I know Councilman Mitchell.
Can we do that or no? Can we just relook at
I
this?
know
That's all I'm
Councilman
asking.
Mitchell wanted
It's
talked about
probably
putting it
in the
industrial.
I zone because originally it was town labs, it was manufactured.
It's not industrial.
It's just no.
But that's not the point to what he's talking about, which is whether or not cannabis retail should be permitted in that zone.
Jeremy, what can we do?
With the current ordinance, no.
You can do nothing, you can ask the planning board to revisit it, you can bring it up as a discussion item for the next meeting.
So should we be asking the planning board to revisit it?
I think they're not revisiting Councilwoman Frey. So the question is that something that council wants to do? Not the applicant, but council. So, because then you bear the cost. In a normal situation, the applicant would bear all those costs. Right? So, and we've had other applicants that had to go back to the boards because the council said, we're not looking, but we'll let you have that discussion. And then still, at the end of the day, it's going to be the council that introduces an amendment to that ordinance and adopts that amendment.
To make it a permitted use.
To make it a permitted use under the Cannabis Act.
It's an II zone? Right?
It's an II. I mean, it's almost, I'm not
It
even
must
sure
be,
what II is.
it must be unique. Because
It could be an I1. It reads on the map. It's I2.
How come I can't find a map anywhere either with all the zoning? It's so blurry, you guys can look at it online? You can't really make out anything on there.
It looks like that's the only one in town.
It's the only I1.
Yeah,
It's
because
that,
there's I2 by
the
me.
PSC&G probably,
Yes,
and
and
the cemetery.
Cemetery.
Yeah, cemetery. We know
And
that's
what
not
about
industrial.
across the street though? Isn't
I
Storms?
think across the street is still
I think
I1.
Storms properties and
And then I2 starts behind Storms and then goes
Yeah.
from there.
So that was, it was, the industrial, the I zones were dismissed early.
Right, because we weren't going to do.
We weren't gonna do industrial cultivation, and when I say we, I keep apologizing, I
Yeah,
know
right,
what
we
I'm
work
talking
on
about.
growth, we work on growth.
Is you only looked at retail locations, because that was what the desire was at the time.
Correct. And this is not in retail, this location.
It's possible that the existing use of there was granted a variance at one point for
I was
medical.
gonna say, because
It's been there forever.
unless you're selling colonoscopies,
No.
I don't think that's retail.
What, we're not gonna resolve this tonight. What is our,
No, I think
our next
my
meeting?
plan was, my thought would be,
10% off?
those that were actively involved in identifying locations, have a conversation, maybe talk to a couple members of the planning board, and, and see what you want to do. You want to open up the I district, that you're gonna have requests to open up you've had requests to open up the I district. That's entirely, that was dismissed, the I districts were dismissed early.
Problem with that, if we open that up to retail, then any retailer could go into the I district.
But there's only really one building there in the I district, right?
Currently.
Yeah, there's more than one I district.
Yeah.
Well, in that particular.
And there's
Yeah, in that particular area I'm talking.
Again, there's other buildings that are in that area. You have the one building that you're speaking about, but across the street, next to the parking lot is another building.
Yeah, the DGM building.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which also previously had a karate studio in there.
Yep.
Which again, you can't look at, Graziano, you're gonna get frustrated with me saying that.
What's that?
I would say you're gonna get frustrated with my comment. You can't look at who's occupying it now, who has it now, because things change very fluidly. The problem is, I know that one district where you talk about Dunkin' Donuts, and if a new owner buys that mall tomorrow, they may allow it. The landlord's just not allowing it. And then, when I say they're not allowing it, and I mean, most of the applicants, when I say the applicants, because no one's applied yet, but most of the interested parties are schooling the landlords. That's what they're doing, because some of these landlords have no clue what's about. One landlord said, oh, you're not allowed to have it in this district, it's too close to the school. The other one said, oh, you can't. So what happens is the prospective applicants are educating the landlords. And at some point, some landlord's going to be well-educated, and there's money involved. And, at some point, you may not. It may be 6 months down the road after the state opens up their license, and you may not have an applicant. And then certainly there's an opportunity to investigate that.
You're advocating for the point that we haven't had these zones and this permission long enough for it to have really shaken out, for us to see whether we need to make a change or not.
I would agree with that, but this is completely a governing body decision. Thank you for sharing that. But I just, my only concern is that, you did go through the process that was required. You did select the district that was required. And you did have testimony, and the planning board had testimony, and
Let's do this. We have a cannabis subcommittee. Let's get together and see if we want to take this up, and if we decide to pursue it, we have action at this table in conjunction with the planning board. So let's start with the cannabis subcommittee.
Is that meeting open to the public?
The subcommittee just considered, we just considered
the planning board meeting and this meeting would, if action were to be taken based on our recommendation of the subcommittee, would be open to the public. But the subcommittee itself is not open.
Okay. Now let's just say you guys shoot this down. What are my options now? Like go apply for a variance?
That would be my suggestion, yes.
What were you gonna say, Kevin?
I was going to say you're asking the governing body for legal advice. And
I'm just asking my options, not my legal advice.
No,
it's an option.
I know that's
It's a good question. You're probably asking the wrong people.
How should I ask it?
Talk to the zoning
Ask the lawyer.
Yeah, well,
You're asking a legal question.
right, talk to the zoning official. He'll give you
need and yeah.
Go to the zoning official. He'll tell you the steps that would need to be taken. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Of course.
All right, motion to close.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Councilmembers Granville Brady,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Tina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
All right, we have a series of consent resolutions. Kevin, we have two that we are tabling, right? 078 and 079. No, I'm sorry, 078 and 080. They are being tabled.
Yes.
Any that council wishes to discuss?
070, please.
Okay. All right, I'll summarize the ones that will act as a group. 068, urging the swift passage of Senate Bill 330, which restores energy tax receipts. 069, approving the submission of a 2022 AARP Community Challenge Grant for Greenway revitalization. 071, canceling landlord registration fees. 072, authorizing payment of a $500 application fee for a grant. 073, supporting an application for an HDSRA grant for landfill rehabilitation. 074, awarding a contract to DeSantis Construction for parking lot 8 improvements in the amount of $149,379.28. 075, authorizing refund on an escrow balance for 184 East Spring Street. 076, authorizing refund on a escrow balance for 25 to 37 North Meadow Street. 077, authorizing submission of a New Jersey Historic Trust Fund grant application for Daniel Roberts House restoration. 079, authorizing payment to Somerset County in the amount of $353,777.13 for Davenport and Mercer Street reconstruction. 081, approving a supplemental agreement to the amended and restated redevelopment agreement with Hathaway Solar to facilitate the development of a solar project. 082, authorizing payment to Rapid Recovery Services in the amount of $177,642.80 for emergency services performed at 32 Fifth Street. 083, authorizing payment to DeSapio Properties in accordance with the amended and restated declaration of easements and covenants for Veterans Memorial Park and Garage. 084, authorizing the appointment of special counsel Ryan Zerbo to analyze long-term options for the ownership and operation of the sewers wastewater collection system. And 085, authorizing changes to the Office of Emergency Management Support Team. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmembers Granville Brady,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Tina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
All right, 070, designating Somerville Borough as a stigma-free community. Motion.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Fred, you had a point?
Yeah, so my point, and I mentioned this during Challenge Day, it's often lost on people that, mental illness is a type of sickness, is a type of illness that probably everyone goes through. And Somerset County is slowly working on getting, making it stigma-free zones, know that we support people who have mental illness or mental health problems. This is obviously also very big with military veterans. We often forget that, especially with PTSD. And like I said, with Challenge Day, a lot of our middle schoolers, so it's good to teach from an early on age, sort of the old adage of buck up or man up. That's really not how it's supposed to be. We gotta work together and, understand that it's tough out there in the world. And, being designated Somerville as a stigma-free community, I think is a good step to show that we can combat mental illness and make people feel more comfortable in their community. And that's all I have.
And I'll just second, not every disability is visible.
I always wonder why we have resolutions that have no real action, that have no, when I say no point to it. I think many of you know that I have family members who have had issues that require continued treatment. But I don't understand why this can't be a proclamation. I mean, we had the nuclear-free zone under Manny Loveglass, okay? I don't know what that means, but we have that. Why don't we have a proclamation from the mayor proclaiming this as a stigma-free community? I mean, the county, what's the county doing? What are we getting for our buck, okay? What happens now? Do we put up signs? Do we have the county run programs? There's no meat in this, guys. I'm honestly, and I don't want to sound like a curmudgeon, but I am. There's no meat in this. So we do it, and we file it away. And so what?
Well, as I said, we have Challenge Day for youth services, and this is just
We
showing
still
support.
have that, Fred. I mean, you know,
It goes in hand in hand.
what are we going to do with it? Once we pass this tonight, is anybody going to even think about it 6 months from now?
So what'll happen with this, Councilman, is the stigma-free resolution is the first step in the county's program. So, again, so we'll pass the resolution, we'll run with the county. The county is going to provide some education and training as part of this, you know. And again, I don't know all the details on it, but they did put together a program in the county that's attached to this. So it's a little different than nuclear-free zone where you just kind of
you put it there and it dies.
But I think this will actually this is the first step in signing on to the county's efforts on stigma-free, and I think that they will provide some training. You know, we'll be asked to probably collaborate with them with with a committee. But it's again, it is an awareness, but there is a little more to this as it develops.
I would want to make sure there's follow-up with this, because again, we have these things that go out there, they end up being filed away, and that's the end of it. If indeed this is something that's going to be followed up by the county, funded by the county, I think this is a wonderful idea.
This was here, and Kevin saw it. This was one page out of about 40 as part of that plan.
Well, I haven't seen the other 39, okay?
Yeah,
I
maybe not 40
just want to impress upon everyone.
No, it's.
The next resolution we have, if we haven't done anything with this resolution, I'm not going to jump into the next resolution that talks about something else, okay? I just think, folks, we have to be very cognizant of what we're doing here, why we're doing it, what it is that we're trying to do. If this is simply a feel-good resolution, and you know how I feel about that, Fred, then I don't feel too good about it.
Well, and also too, they are working with local businesses throughout the county to put up these stigma-free zones. Just having the outreach there to say we're stigma-free could, you know, with those middle schoolers I spent all day with, just to know that it's stigma-free means a hell of a lot, I think.
Does the Board of Ed get this resolution?
Make sure they do.
It's important, because if you're talking about middle school
stigma-free
kids
means.
having it up, then the Board of Ed should get it, should be an endorsement from the council. That's an action.
What about the health commission?
It's a real program.
What about what?
I think there's a vote pending there.
Yes, I was just about to bring us back. I think it's an endorsement of a program that's worthwhile, but it does bear watching. And you make a good point.
We should get in touch with, this is what we've done, and this is why we think we've done it, not that it's filed away. That's all
Roll
I'm
call.
saying.
Council members, Granville Brady,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Bills and vouchers.
I move to pay the amount of $555,000, $838.93 of bills and vouchers.
Second round.
Council members, Granville Brady,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
All right,
Fine.
Mr. Mitchell,
Move for adjournment.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
See you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
It's not lost on me, but it's.
See you soon.